Did you ever fail in school or consider dropping out? I did. I was sitting at the kitchen table with tears in my eyes, staring at the big F on my algebra test, when suddenly Amma, my mother, sat next to me. As she looked at the big F on my algebra test, thoughts ran through my head about my parents. My parents, a caring mother and a hardworking father who had immigrated to Chicago to give me a better life. How I was letting my parents down. How I had failed all the standardized tests throughout elementary school. Disqualified from GATE honors classes in middle school. Stuck in those classrooms with the noisy kids. And now I was failing Algebra 1. I began to feel I wasn't really smart and that maybe school was not for me. Amma, my mother, then looked into my hopeless eyes. And then she said in Tamil, a language spoken in South India, she said, "Onnala mudiyum, Thambi," which means, "You can do it, brother or son." Or in Spanish, "Si se puede, mijo." I wanted to believe Amma, but I couldn't. I mean, I was terrified by the peach-colored algebra book, terrified like I was of those angry dogs that used to chase me around the block. And Amma, my mother, she knew this. So, one day, Amma came to me and she said, "Son, the X, it's just a dog. It's just an angry dog that wants to be in its own block. And the numbers, they're like strangers that need to escape to the other side of the equation before the X dog eats it up for lunch. In order for the number, the stranger, to cross the bridge to the other side, it has to change its sign or operation from subtract to add or add to subtract. The problem is only solved, son, when X, the dog, is alone in its own block." And then it hit me. Solving for X was like a game of escape from the angry dog. You see, Amma did not know much English or math, but she was determined to find a way, a language, and teach so that her student could understand. Now, along the way, Amma she broke a few pencils out of frustration, but I knew Amma would never give up on me. You see, it is because Amma was a caring mentor and a culturally responsive teacher with the mindset that failure is not an option, that I rose from an F- to a C, and then finally an A in Algebra 1. And this transformation led me to graduate from high school, graduate from college, and then embark on a 20-year journey as a high school algebra teacher to thousands of failing kids, and then a principal at high schools, continuation schools, and juvenile halls from East Oakland, California to North Sacramento, California. I became the teacher to the unteachables, those kids who had 6 Fs on a report card, pushed out of school for fighting, labeled as dropouts. Transforming thousands of failing ninth graders into scholars became my purpose and life calling. Now, along the way, I was recognized as Sacramento County Teacher of the Year and California State Teacher of the Year. But in my heart, I was just paying it forward, sharing the gift that Amma had given to me. I will never forget when one of my students, Lamar, came to me one day, and he was beaming with joy. He said, "Dr. Raja, I just got a 3.0. I made honor roll." And this was after years of having failed in school. You see, Lamar was a 9th grade student in the Create Academy, which was a school within a school. And I was a teacher and a director. And every day, Lamar would stay after school for tutoring, and I would give him a ride home. And we would stop by the local Subway shop where Lamar would get his favorite turkey special sandwich. And he would sit there, and Lamar would talk about how happy he was to finally succeed in school and how he wanted to graduate and take care of his grandma who had always been there for him. But in the 10th grade, Lamar McCants was put back in the traditional school model where, like many of his peers, he did not feel connected or cared for. And slowly, Lamar began to miss his classes, fail in school, until one day, Lamar was expelled to a continuation school. And then I got the phone call. It was Lamar's grandma. She was on the phone. And then she said, "Dr. Raja, Lamar was killed yesterday in a drive-by shooting." My heart dropped. I drove to the nearest gas station to gather my emotions. I put my hands in the air and I asked, God, how could we lose Lamar? Within 2 years, there were 3 more young men who were killed in retaliatory gun violence, all related to the death of Lamar. I know over 50 former students of mine who were either pushed out, dropped out, left school, and were killed or incarcerated within 2 years before their 18th birthday. You see, 1 million dropouts a year in America produces 80% of our nation's prison inmates. Our crimes, homicides, unhoused population, and victims of sex trafficking costing millions of lives. 1 million dropouts a year cost the nation over $300 billion in their lifetime. Therefore, solving the dropout crisis is our nation's #1 economic stimulus package. University of Chicago reports 80% of the 1 million dropouts could have been identified and prevented in the 9th grade based on poor attendance and failing grades. Therefore, you and I and 350 million other Americans are hostage to the dropout crisis because our communities are unsafe and often plagued by people we label as criminals, felons, homeless, when in reality they were that 13-year-old child most likely failing in school in the 9th grade, desperate for hope. The Bill Gates Foundation study of thousands of dropouts has labeled the dropout crisis as our nation's #1 silent epidemic. Why silent? This is because high schools across the country report inflated and inaccurate graduation rates, failing to report all of the kids who go missing before the 12th grade. Johns Hopkins University has in fact identified and labeled 2,000 high schools across the country as dropout factory high schools. This is because these high schools lose nearly half of their starting 9th graders before graduation. And while the dropout factory high schools produce 70% of our nation's dropouts, they will not report those students who go missing before the 12th grade. Evidence from Harvard University shows that most of these kids who go missing, transferred, pushed out of school before the 12th grade, they will not graduate high school. My mission as president of Miracle University is to end the dropout crisis by ensuring every failing 9th grader in every city graduates from high school prepared to succeed in college or a career. This is why I have decided to immerse myself in research and we discovered two root causes to the dropout crisis of 1 million kids making the decision to drop out every year. Root cause number one, low student motivation. See, many students in low-income and urban communities of color do not have the support or accountability at home, yet they attend schools where no one even knows them. Why? This is because at the traditional American public high school, there's one counselor for every 500 students. Can you imagine how many kids feel like no one knows their name, face, or story, or even knows they are struggling? Root cause number two, low student engagement in the classroom. Stanford University shows that the factor at the school that has the greatest impact on student achievement is an effective teacher. Yet, teachers in low-income and urban communities of color are 6 times more likely to be unqualified or ineffective in engaging their students in the classroom. And we know that one ineffective teacher can damage a child for up to 4 years. So, what is the solution to the dropout crisis? My mentor and professor, Dr. Victor Rios from UC Berkeley, says, every child will thrive in zones of moss bloom. What is moss bloom? This is a theory that states we must first address the social-emotional needs tied to the heart before addressing the cognitive needs tied to the head. In practice, the moss bloom theory reveals 2 key solutions to the dropout crisis. Solution number 1, every child must have an effective, culturally responsive mentor on campus. At Miracle University, we call this hands-on mentors. These are culturally responsive advocates from the community who specialize in unlocking the child's heart. These mentors are matched with every child on campus based on common struggles, career interests, common language. These mentors are trained to support teachers in the classroom, communicate with parents, make home visits. These mentors support and hold every child on campus accountable to maintaining ABCW, attendance, behavior, classwork, and wellness. Therefore, we can finally say every child on campus has a champion who knows their name, face, and story, and will never give up on them. Solution number 2 to the dropout crisis. Every child has an effective, culturally responsive teacher in every classroom. At Miracle University, we call this the Create Teaching Model. Every teacher, in addition to knowing the subject matter, they are specialized in unlocking the child's mind and potential. Every teacher is trained to be culturally responsive. Teach in a way, use language, use stories that will unlock the child's mind and get them to learn. The Miracle University School Model, based on these 2 components of culturally responsive mentoring and teaching, has been tested. It has transformed thousands of failing 9th graders into scholars. It has been validated by the UC Davis Research Institute, and it has also been presented as a blueprint to eliminate the dropout crisis to over 100,000 educators across the world in books and documentaries. But during this process, we have learned that just 1 year of effective mentoring and teaching is not enough to transform every failing 9th grader into a scholar. You see, shortly after Lamar's death, his grandma reached out to me and she said, Dr. Raja, if only Lamar had had 4 years of great mentors and great teachers, he would have stayed in school, graduated, and been alive today. She was right. We have discovered that it takes 4 years of effective mentoring and teaching in order to ensure that healing has occurred and that habits and mindset have been reconditioned so that the failing ninth grader will succeed in and out the classroom. The following students represent thousands of failing ninth graders who rose from the worst attendance, behavioral records, grades, to success. I'm going to give a shout out to a few students who may even be in this room. Willie Stallworth. You can stand. Willie Stallworth is today the founder of Underrated Academy, helping at-risk youth throughout the city of Atlanta and throughout the nation. Proud of you, Willie. Carmen Aon, who today graduated from UC Berkeley Law School and works in the congressional office fighting for human justice and rights. Eddie Sparks, today is the founder of IDF, helping at-risk youth throughout the city of Atlanta. Very, very proud of him. These and thousands of other failing ninth graders have risen from the depths of failure to speaking at national conferences to becoming productive citizens in today's society. I'm happy to share with you that today Miracle University is partnering with the city of Sacramento to replicate our school model citywide so that we can tackle our dropout crisis. So the next time you run into our brothers and sisters who are experiencing homelessness, incarceration, or who are stuck in a cycle of crime and violence, please, I encourage you to see them as the 13-year-old hidden genius who was most likely a victim of the silent epidemic. Whether we are educators, parents, or community members, we all can and must end the dropout crisis. You see, education, according to the American Public Health Association, is the #1 determinant of your health and life expectancy. Therefore, ending the dropout crisis will trigger a rebirth and bring life into every neighborhood and city across America. So I invite you to end the dropout crisis by reaching out to your city's failing ninth graders and immersing them into an effective mentoring and teaching model for all 4 years. For all 4 years. When we do this, not only will we protect our children, improve our economy, but we will also enjoy more peace, more safety, more wellness, more happiness, and a better, longer life. Thank you very much.